Welcome to Vancouver International Airport, where today we're flying All Nippon Airways, the Japanese airline, over on my first post-pandemic trip to Japan, and then onwards to Malaysia. We killed a little bit of time in the Maple Leaf Lounge, but we didn't eat any food. Why eat lounge food when there's delicious Japanese food on board ANA? We're flying a Japanese airline today, but we can't enter Japan. Jesse, how do you feel about that? Indeed, I was very much looking forward to this flight. With Japan still not being open for tourism, I was excited to consume as much Japanese food as I could. Boarding the ANA Dreamliner, we were originally assigned seats in row 5, but we asked to move to the seats in row 8 for greater privacy. The middle seats are ideal for couples sitting next to each other, whereas you're best off choosing one of the window seats if you're a solo traveler, especially one of the seats that are closer to the windows rather than closer to the aisle. Taking a tour of the ANA business class seat, you've got the entertainment screen right in front of you. Underneath that is the footwell, and beneath that a further storage space for a personal item. At the top here, you've got a coat hook, and then turning around to the seat console, you'll find most of the remaining features of the seat. This literature pocket also plays host to a little hook for resting your headphones, and the USB and power outlets, as well as an older generation entertainment controller, can be found here. Then you've got the seat controls below the surface space, and the tray table pops out like this. Here in the middle seats, there's also a privacy divider between you and your seatmate. As usual, before takeoff, let's check out some of these amenities. Taking a look through the ANA Business Class amenity kit, I found that it was a rather bare-bones offering, with a set of earplugs, an eye mask, a toothbrush, and just a few skincare items by the Globetrotter brand. There was, however, a very comfortable set of slippers to change into for the duration of the flight. Now, it does weigh quite heavily on me that I'm flying a Japanese airline, but we can't enter Japan. So as I mentioned earlier, you bet that I'm eating my way through the entire menu. Let's take a look at what's on offer. I was of course going to go for the Japanese cuisine, which consists of a multi-course washoku menu. And I'd kick things off with a glass of the Duval Le Roi champagne before switching to the sake selection for the rest of the meal. Cheers to the next 9 hours on ANA Business Class. Before long, it was time for the first platter of my Japanese lunch. Zensai, a selection of morsels, kobachi, tasty tidbits, and otsukuri, a selection of sashimi, along with some sake to go along with it. This Japanese feast is off to a great start, so let's dig in. That was then followed by the shusai, or main course, a grilled trout with soy sauce, combined with steamed rice and miso soup. And after a scrumptious Japanese meal, I wrapped things up with some ice cream and a fruit plate. I guess that was enough for lunch. In all seriousness, I could probably stomach a little bit more food, but remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. There's still another meal left to go here on ANA Business Class, and then after that we've got the lounge in Tokyo, and then another ANA Business Class flight down to Kuala Lumpur. So I'm going to take it easy for now, and we'll resume later on. I helped myself to some Hojicha green tea while I got some work done, but it wasn't long before I was feeling peckish once again. Alright, I've gotten some work done, and now I'm feeling hungry again, so it's time to eat some snacks. This time we had a rice bowl with ginger fried pork, a corn soup, and ANA's signature kabosu citrus drink. Before long, I decided it was time to get a few hours of sleep in to prepare myself for an eventual midnight arrival in Kuala Lumpur at the tail end of the journey. Alright, let's test out this bed. It is a little bit narrow. It's not the widest seat that you'll find in the sky. And down by the footwell, it does go straight in quite deep. So if you're the type to move around a lot in your sleep, you might find yourself bumping your knees against the sides of the footwell. Now there's still about 3 hours of the flight left, so to pass the time, naturally, I've ordered a bunch of drinks again. Here we've got iced green tea, basically getting to try every drink on the menu, and here we've got a soup that's served in a cup. As we approached Tokyo, it was time for the pre-arrival meal. They've just turned up all the lights as well as all the windows, which means meal service number 2 is starting right now. Now when it comes to the pre-arrival meal here on ANA Business Class, you've got what Jesse calls essentially a little bit of everything. And let me show you the most special part. ANA likes to serve its rice wrapped in a few sheets of paper. Now how special is that? Whew. I think that just about does it for this flight. Now before long, we began our descent into Tokyo Narita International Airport, and looking around at the Japanese countryside, there was definitely a bittersweet feeling with the return to Japan so close yet so far away. So close yet so far to entering Japan. Now we just gotta make up for it on our flight to our actual destination, Kuala Lumpur. We made our way through transit security and then headed to the ANA lounge to wait for our next flight. And of course, helping myself to a fair few portions of Japanese food while we waited. You know, for a country that's closed to tourism, this airport lounge is surprisingly chaotic. But I've only got my eyes on one thing, and that's the noodle bar. And as we headed back to the gate, we needed to stop to make a very important contribution to the suggestion box. You can thank Jesse later. Now on this flight to Kuala Lumpur, the meal service once again began with a tray of small morsels and tasty bites. But I gotta say, as I nibbled my way through the appetizers and main course, I was getting pretty sleepy at this point, and this meal would indeed turn out to be my last until we landed in Malaysia. We finally made it to our final destination here in Kuala Lumpur. We're staying at the Alila Hotel, and I must say I really enjoyed the ANA business class flights that brought us over here, even though I was a little bit miffed that we couldn't actually enter Japan while flying a Japanese airline. I think I did the journey justice though, having enjoyed 3 different Japanese main courses, as well as a bunch of items from the snack menu, plus some noodles at the noodle bar in the ANA lounge in Tokyo. And I gotta say, the gastronomic experience when flying Japanese airlines is still one of my favorite things ever. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you'll also love my similar flights on board Japan Airlines business class, the other Japanese airline that I took last year. You can check out this video on screen right now to find out what that experience was like and how that compared to ANA business class.